All right. Let me start with Gaza because I think that's what all of you are interested in today. Our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that yesterday and today the Israeli authorities granted us access to Kareem Shalom so that our teams could reach additional humanitarian supplies that crossed into the Strip on Monday and Tuesday, crossed from Israel into the Kareem Shalom loading areas. Other critical items such as hygiene products or fuel have not been allowed in by the Israeli authorities into Kareem Shalom. So far, and this is as a few minutes ago, but the situation obviously is fluid, none of the supplies have been able to leave the Kareem Shalom loading area. This is because by yesterday evening, Israeli authorities had only allowed our teams to go through one area where that was highly congested, that we felt was insecure, and where we felt looting was highly likely to take place given the prolonged deprivation of in Gaza since the blockade by the Israeli authorities for over 11 weeks. We hope that will change very soon. The discussions are ongoing as we speak between our colleagues and the Israeli security authorities. We are continuing to engage with them to identify the best possible routes out of Kareem Shalom towards Gaza to ensure that the flow of aid is not disrupted or suspended. Our partners are in touch with community leaders in Gaza to mitigate the risk of looting and ensure that the supplies entering Gaza reach the people who need them. However, it is important to underscore that the limited supplies finally being allowed to enter Kareem Shalom are nowhere near enough to meet the needs in Gaza, which are vast, which are tremendous. Much more aid needs to get in. Meanwhile, bombardment and shelling are continuing across the Gaza Strip. Today, the Gaza Ministry of Health reported dozens of people killed in the last 24 hours, and yesterday it made an urgent call for blood donations for the sick and for those injured. As OCHA is telling us that 80% of the Gaza Strip is now either subject to displacement orders or located in Israeli militarized zones. These zones require humanitarians to coordinate their movements with the Israeli security authorities. Our partners tell us that over the past few days, almost half of the newly displaced people have fled with none of their belongings. The ongoing displacement of Gaza's population is putting immense pressure on humanitarian teams, especially when there is no food or any basic items being allowed in. In Gaza City, our partners report an extreme lack of shelter space. Displacement sites and residential buildings are all very much overcrowded. People are settling in abandoned, unfinished, or destroyed or damaged structures. Some of them are sleeping out in the open. And as we've been saying over and over again, civilians need to be protected, including those fleeing or those forced to leave through displacement orders, or those who remain in place despite the displacement orders. Meanwhile, continued attacks on healthcare facilities are ongoing. Earlier today, Al-Wada Hospital, which is the only partially functioning hospital in North Gaza Governorate and still treating dozens of patients, was hit. Yesterday, Kamal Adwan Hospital ceased operations, and as of yesterday, our partners report that about 304,000 daily meals were prepared and delivered through about 70 kitchens. 5 kitchens resume operations, including 2 in Khan Yunis and 3 that relocated to Gaza City following recent displacement orders from North Gaza. However, 5 others in Gaza City and Khan Yunis were forced to shut down after their supplies were depleted. Our partners providing water, sanitation, and hygiene services say that water sanitation is worsening by the day. For example, the largest desalination plant in north of Gaza is in an area slated for displacement. This has disrupted access to drinking water for about 150,000 people. And in southern Gaza, in Al-Mawasi, the water situation is also dire in the area, and the area is not connected to the water network and relies heavily on water trucking. This requires both vehicles and fuel to serve the needy population. I also want to flag another horrific humanitarian situation, this one very close to our own shores here, and that is in Haiti. Our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that armed violence and growing insecurity continue to expose children to sexual violence and other severe protection risks. And as you can imagine, displaced boys and girls are especially vulnerable in this current environment in Haiti. The International Organization for Migration estimates that more than half of all internally displaced people in Haiti are children. 1 in 8 children in Haiti is displaced. That is exposing them to exploitation, it's exposing them to abuse, and it's exposing them to potential recruitment into armed gangs. As we've mentioned in the past, our colleagues estimate that about half of all gang members are children. UNICEF documented a staggering 1,000% rise in sexual violence against children between 2023 and 2024. In a statement released today, the resident humanitarian coordinator in Haiti, Ulrika Richardson, expressed her deep distress at the shocking death of a 6-year-old girl after she was brutally raped in a displacement site in Cité Soleil in Port-au-Prince. This happened at the beginning of the month, and Ms. Richardson said it is a stark reminder of the extreme dangers faced by children living in highly precarious conditions. No child should ever endure such violence. Our humanitarian partners have intensified efforts to support survivors of sexual violence across impacted regions. Between January and March of this year, more than 6,200 people, including many women and girls, received psychosocial support. Mobile health clinics reached more than 670 people. Our partners also distributed over 745 dignity kits. Our partners are implementing legal, medical, and socioeconomic reintegration services for sexual violence survivors in the areas in Haiti of West, Artibonite, Nord-Est, and Grande Anse departments. Immediate priorities include expanding access to protection and psychosocial support for survivors, increasing safety in displacement sites, creating a safe space for women and girls, and enhancing prevention, case management, and reporting mechanisms for gender-based violence. Severe underfunding continues to hamper response efforts. Less than $600,000, which is just 5% of the more than $11 million required to support gender-based violence survivors, has been received to date, limiting obviously the capacity of our humanitarian partners to sustain and expand these vital services, especially in high-risk areas of the country. OCHA continues to work closely with national authorities, UN agencies, and humanitarian organizations to support efforts to protect children across Haiti and to ensure that even in the most difficult circumstances, the right to safety, the right to dignity remains at the center of our humanitarian response. Just turning back to a couple of meetings here. As you know, yesterday afternoon, the Secretary-General addressed the 2025 ECOSOC operational activities for development segment. He warned that with less than 5 years to go in the 2030 deadline, we're facing nothing short of a development emergency and that the Sustainable Development Goals are alarmingly off track. The Secretary-General said that we must never forget that a development emergency is at its root a human emergency, adding that there's also a funding emergency with resources shrinking across the board. He noted that, for example, as detailed in his report, total financial contributions to the UN development system dropped by $9 billion, or about 16% in 2023 from the year before. The Secretary-General pointed out that our organization is increasingly asked to do more with less, a trend that will continue for the foreseeable future. His full remarks were shared with you, and this morning our Deputy Secretary-General, Amina Mohammed, presented the annual report on the work of the Development Coordination System and the Resident Coordinator System. The report highlights the critical role played by the revitalized resident coordinator system in making UN development systems more effective, more efficient, and more responsive, and to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. Her full remarks have been shared with you, and the full report is on the interweb. Also this morning, the Security Council held an open meeting on Syria. Briefing them from Damascus in Syria by video conference was our special envoy for Syria, Geert Pedersen. He welcomed the latest international steps related to lifting economic sanctions, saying that this holds major potential to improving living conditions across the country and supporting the Syrian political transition. He also noted that he shared concrete ideas with the interim authorities so that a people's assembly is seen as representative of the unity and the diversity of the Syria. And briefing remotely was also Ramesh Rajasingham, our Director for Coordination at OCHA. Today he said 16.5 million Syrians need protection and humanitarian assistance. Despite these challenges, we and our partners are reaching millions each month through in-country and continued cross-border operations. Highlighting the alarming funding situation as of today, he warned that only 10% has been funded of the $2 billion needed to reach 8 million people from January through June of this year. And you will see that in Sudan, we issued a statement yesterday in which the Secretary-General took note of the decree issued on May 19th by the chairman of Sudan's Transitional Sovereign Council, appointing Camille El-Tayeb Idris as the new prime minister. The Secretary-General said he hopes that the appointment will serve as the first step towards an inclusive consultation aimed at forming a broad-based technocratic government for Sudan and forging peace for the country. The Secretary-General also underscored that consensus efforts must be prioritized and lead to tangible progress for the benefit of all Sudanese people, including by silencing the guns, by delivering essential services to the population, and by laying the groundwork for a common vision for Sudan's future. And turning to Myanmar, where it's been 7 weeks since a devastating earthquake, and our humanitarian situation and the humanitarian situation in that country could deteriorate further amid continued aftershocks as well as insecurity. On May 17th, a 5.2 magnitude earthquake hit the Mandalay region. The tremor, which lasted about 20 seconds, was the strongest to hit the area since the 7.7 magnitude quake killed more than 3,800 people across the country. Meanwhile, insecurity continues. Local sources report that between 10 and May 13th, intensified airstrikes reportedly killed more than 50 civilians and injured nearly 100 others across northern Shan, Rakhine, and Sagaing regions. Aid workers continue to race against the clock to help people before the start of the monsoon season, which runs from June to April, but is expected to arrive even earlier this year. And since the March 28th earthquake, our humanitarian partners have provided nearly 400,000 people with food and almost 300,000 people with emergency water, sanitation, and hygiene support. Our partners have supported more than 40,000 people with health assistance and provided emergency shelter to more than 20,000 people. However, many families remain displaced in temporary shelters or rental housing with limited sustainable long-term shelter solution in sight. The lack of infrastructure to address solid waste is posing serious environmental and public health risks in these displacement sites. Malaria and dengue could spread as stagnant water from rain creates breeding grounds for mosquitoes, especially during the monsoon season. Funding the humanitarian response in Myanmar remains limited despite the scale and the urgency of the problem. The flash addendum to the 2025 Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan, which called for $275 million to reach 1.1 million people with urgent aid, is only 22% funded, with only $60 million received so far. There are some apartments for sale in Manhattan for more than $60 million. Turning to Libya, our political mission there, UNSMIL, reported that the public prosecutor in Tripoli has begun an urgent investigation into the matter of the 58 bodies found at a hospital that was under the control of a militia whose leader was killed last week. Meanwhile, UNSMIL is coordinating with local authorities to verify the accuracy of the reported numbers of bodies found and to ensure that the rights of victims and families are respected during the identification and investigation process. Today, we have two international days today. One is to honor the drink that is most consumed in the world after water, obviously. Tea. E.D. Letter plays for the win. Tea for Better Lives. It is also the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, which highlights the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. Housekeeping note for you, as you know, the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development will take place in the beautiful city of Sevilla in Spain from June 30th to July 3rd. Our colleagues at MALU wanted me to remind you that the deadline to apply for media accreditation is June 12th. Participants are also required to submit the visa application to Spain at least 5 weeks before the opening of the conference. Please check with MALU, the MALU website for details and apply by next week if you need a visa. And if you have any questions, talk to our friends in MALU. We'll go to the tea lady.
Thank you, Steph. Personally, I'm a coffee drinker, but I've lived in many tea-producing places. First, can you walk us through with some numbers the exact status of the trucks and where they are and why they aren't getting to the 2.1 million people in need?
Yeah. Basically, a number of trucks have been cleared by Israel to cross the fence into the Kareem Shalom loading dock. We have brought in empty trucks from various places in Gaza to pick up the supplies. Some of those trucks have already been loaded. They are ready to go. As I mentioned at the top of the, I don't want to say at the top of the hour, but a few minutes ago, I checked with our OCHA colleagues, and as of noon, there was no information that had reached our colleagues in Jerusalem that trucks had left Kareem Shalom. The reason they had not left yesterday, when those trucks were loaded, was because the only route that had been cleared by the Israeli authorities for us to use, where they would, in the clearance mean for us that the Israelis would suspend the kinetic activity along those routes while we traveled. We felt those routes were unsafe due to congestion and other factors. So we did not want to put our staff at even greater risk, because by just being in Gaza, they're already at great risk. We did not want to put the aid itself at risk. Discussions are ongoing now with the Israeli authorities to try to find alternate routes, and there is still time, from what I'm told, that things could leave today. Yep.
I had a question on something completely different. Does the Secretary-General have any comment on the deportation of migrants from the United States to South Sudan, a country that none of them have any connection to?
I know our colleagues at UNHCR have not been consulted on this issue, so I don't really have any comment except to say that obviously as a principal position, refugees or people in need of international protection must not be sent back to a place where they face risk. Gabriel, then Benos, then Michelle.
Thanks, Steph. I know you don't like to talk about numbers, but can you give us the number of trucks in the Kerem Abu Salem loading zone area?
I think there are about 100 trucks in there.
On the Gaza side?
Within that loading area.
Okay, and we're now on day 3 of this, roughly. No aid has been distributed. This system seems like it's unworkable. Can you prove me wrong? Or do you have any reason to believe that it is workable?
Very little is easy. Very little is workable in this environment. We were provided an opportunity to distribute aid based on our principles, right? Based on the work that we know how to do. We took that opportunity. We're trying to work through all the obstacles. As I mentioned, there's still time today that trucks may leave today. So let's see what happens before the end of the
Just
day.
to confirm, Israel gave you one route to get this aid.
That was yesterday. That was the reason things were not able to leave yesterday, because the route was not acceptable to us. As I said, engagements are continuing. Benno, then Michelle.
I would yield to Michelle because I think that was probably answered.
Wow.
Not ready. So the nearly 100 trucks that have crossed over, that was on Monday and Tuesday. Did any trucks cross over the border
Yeah, I
today?
think there were some that came in today. I'm just saying, my understanding is, and this is a rough figure, that we have about 100 in there.
Okay. And then obviously this is all sort of, in the shadow of this new mechanism starting, which Israel tweeted about yesterday, saying they're about to get it up and running. They've said they want it up and running by the end of the month. So have they has Israel said to the UN, as soon as this mechanism is up and running, you're cut off? What's the message?
Listen, we are acting on what we can today. Our position on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation remains unchanged, and we will continue to exploit, in the best possible sense of the word, the aid that is being given to us to distribute based on our own principles.
And you said you're talking to community leaders. Are you also speaking with Hamas about?
We're talking to community leaders. Bassam then Abdelhamid, yes.
Thanks. Today, the Israeli military fired what they said were warning shots at a group of diplomats from different countries visiting the Jenin refugee camp. I mean, we know that the UN had been targeted in Gaza. Now this is probably another escalation against a diplomatic mission. Do you have, or the SG has any comment on that?
I mean, we've been briefed on what's happened. I can tell you the Secretary-General is alarmed by these reports that the IDF fired what they called warning shots at diplomatic personnel, which included UN personnel as well. It is clear that diplomats who are doing their work should never be shot at, attacked in any way, shape, or form, and their safety, their inviolability must be respected at all times. Any use of force against them is unacceptable, and we urge the Israeli authorities to conduct a thorough investigation, to share those findings with us, and to take any measures that would prevent any other such incident to take place. Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Stephane. Humanitarian sources say that if children in Gaza don't receive food within the next 48 hours, there is a risk of losing 14,000 children. They might die in the next 48 hours. And as Save the Children said, it's not a war, it's the crime of normalization of the death of children. Do you subscribe to this?
What we do know is that unless aid gets in, unless food gets in, unless nutrition supplies get in, people will go hungry and will lose their lives. I mean, that is clear to us. The less aid that comes in, the less people have a chance to survive.
Another question about if the SG now realizes what's going on and about the nature of the state of Israel. That is, it has nothing to do with October 7, but is a plan, pre-planned to annihilate, to obliterate a whole people. Doesn't he see what's going
I
on
think
in
the
Gaza?
Secretary General, as you've heard from him, very clearly, I think sees the situation for what it is. He has been raising his voices and raising his voice. Senior UN officials have been raising their voice. UN officials have been putting their own lives at risk, and UN staff have been killed in trying to help the people of Gaza survive. But the only solution is a political solution. We need Hamas and we need the Israelis, the Israeli government, to come to an agreement. And as the Secretary General said, to put us back on a path towards a two-state solution. And regardless of how far that dream may be at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Steph. It's Munira from CNN. I wanted to ask, there are pictures circulating on social media of two of the trucks being filled with shrouds. Can you confirm that 2 of the 8 trucks are entirely just shrouds?
No, I can tell you that there was the UN did not bring in any shrouds into Gaza.
Okay, and I have another question. On the 20 diplomats that were fired at near Jenin camp, on the Israeli side, they said that the delegation deviated from the approved route. Can you confirm this?
What I can confirm is that these diplomats, including UN personnel, were fired at, warning shots or whatever, which is unacceptable. Yvonne.
Thanks, Steph. One of the US private companies that's due to work with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is currently recruiting and looking for people specifically with NGO experience and UN experience in the Middle East. Does the Secretary General have any view on this, whether he would encourage or discourage people from working with this new foundation, given that you're in opposition to it?
Look, it's not for me to we encourage or discourage people from finding work. We would hope that all those who have worked at the UN, who've given their lives, their professional lives to the UN, to live up to the principles that we've been very consistent on, will continue to do that, even if they leave the UN.
Can I check? Given that none of the aid has been distributed so far, have you resolved not to send any more trucks across the border for now until it is distributed?
No, I mean, we would, listen, as I said, the day is not over. We hope that the obstacles get worked out, and we hope that what is in Kareem Shalom will be able to get distributed and sent into Gaza as quickly as possible. And if we get clearance for more, that it will be distributed as well. Amélie, and then we'll go to the back.
Thanks, Steph. Just a follow-up on the West Bank incident. You said there were UN personnel. Can you give any more details, like what agency, how many UN personnel?
I don't have the exact numbers. My understanding is they were colleagues from UNRWA. I mean, they've tweeted out, and other parts of the UN. Yeah, and then Lenka, and then Benno.
Thanks so much, Steph. First of all, a quick follow-up on Amelie's question. No injuries during the...
No.
All right. And on completely different topic, on the elections in Romania, the founder of the Telegram messaging app, Pavel Durov, has accused the head of France's foreign intelligence agency of asking him to ban Romanian conservative voices. Do you have...
Accused him of what?
Of asking him to ban.
To ban?
Yeah,
okay.
to silence,
yeah.
to ban.
Yeah. No, I'm not aware, no comment.
Sure, thank you.
Lenka.
Thank
Benno.
you. Checking just in case, any update on a phone call between Trump and Gutterres or any
No, ma'am,
communication?
I would not. That's not the kind of information I would sit on for more than a few minutes.
Thank you.
Benno.
Thank you. Sorry, Steph. I think I have a little bit of a disconnect, and I might be the last one here not to get the details of the aid deliveries. But did I understand you correctly that Israel has cleared some trucks and gave you a route within Gaza, but that route is not safe enough? Or which route?
Yes,
are
so
we-
I mean, this is yesterday, right? The Israelis told our colleagues, we will clear a road for you. And by clear, I mean that they commit not to engage in any kinetic activity along that route. That's one part of the equation, right? We felt we have to make our own decision, right? We have to assess the risks, which are great to start with, if we want to take even greater risk. Our colleagues on the ground felt that the road was too congested and unsafe, so we did not take that road. We are engaging with them and engaging today, and as I said, things may change still today, to go in different routes.
So is Israel? Did you ask Israel to suggest another route? And
Well,
to
this
clear
is what the
another-
discussions going on today are.
And do you have the feeling that Israel just clearing that one route that you think is not safe enough is to hold back aid deliberately?
You know, I don't know how many feelings I have left. I think I'm a little numb. It's a little hard to. You would have to analyze that. Islam, please.
Thank you. Some European countries, they made a statement that if Israel continues to block the humanitarian aid, they may consider imposing sanctions. What's the UN position on that? Do you expect more UN member states put pressure on Israel regarding?
We very much heard those statements. We feel it is incumbent on every member state that has influence over one or both of the parties to work in the same direction, which is to end this conflict, to get humanitarian aid in, to get a peace process back on track, to get the hostages out. Edie, and then we'll go back to Abdelhamid.
Thanks, Steph. Just on the 100 trucks, can you?
I said about 100.
About 100 trucks.
This is
Can you clarify that these are the trucks that were cleared to go to the UN warehouses, to go into Gaza, and then actually, after they got to the warehouses, to deliver aid to people?
All right, let's. I know, as I said yesterday, we keep telling you not to count trucks, and we keep talking to you about trucks. Just to understand, to try to give you a clear picture of the process. There are trucks that come from Israel proper, that cross into the Kareem Shalom loading area, staging area. We then bring empty trucks from Gaza and move the goods from the trucks that came into Israel to our own trucks. It's not a one-to-one. They're different size vehicles. So I think I've tried to answer your question.
So the around 100 trucks you're talking about are the ones that the UN brought, or
no,
the ones that came in?
The ones that came in.
From Israel?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Abdelhamid, then Yvonne.
Thank
and then
you.
Evelyn.
Yesterday there was a statement from UN Women, talks about killing 20,000 Palestinian women and girls during the conflict. But the statement did not include the word condemn. And this is something I keep repeating, asking again and again. How could a statement from the UN, important UN organ, talking about killing 28,000 women, but yet don't condemn them?
I mean, listen, I think we've been very clear in our condemnation of the killing of civilians. You should ask UN Women about the statement itself.
One more. Sorry.
Faddal, please.
Former Defense Minister of Israel, Ya'alon, he said the following. Okay. And that
I mean, I've seen his statement. What is your question?
Relate to my question that killing Palestinian, he said it's a political ideology and national fascism.
Right, but
that's what he said.
But what is your question, Abdelhamid?
Why the UN doesn't see that?
Listen, everybody is expressing themselves in the way they are free to express themselves. I think our language is very clear. Yvonne, then Evelyn.
Sorry, it was just a quick follow-up on what Edie asked. The vehicles that you're waiting for at the Kareem Shalom crossing, the ones that are going to come, pick up the aid and hopefully distribute it, have they managed to get
Yes, they're
there?
in. They're in that loading area.
So they're also waiting there.
Yes, exactly. So
you
some
have,
of these
you have the 90 or 100 trucks that have come in. You've
yeah,
also got
we've
the delivery
loaded
trucks.
we brought in empty trucks. A large number of those have been loaded and are ready to go.
They can't go. That's the point. They're just
That's
stuck.
exactly it. We understand each other, hopefully, on this. And it's Islam, please.
Health Ministry of Gaza accused Israel deliberately bombing power generators in hospital, I believe in Indonesia hospital. Can you confirm that, and if so, what would be the UN comment on this deliberate attack?
I think this was before you came in, but I talked about the attacks on the hospitals. All right. Evelyn, I'm sorry. And then I see Gabriel twitching. I don't know if
In
he's...
Haiti, you talk about a safe space. Is that a small safe
these
space?
are spaces where and enclosures and buildings where families and children can be and can be safe.
But it hasn't prevented the worst abuses.
Well, because we unfortunately don't have the resources to protect every child.
Thank you.
Do you know the distance from the loading area to the warehouses where they need to get to, roughly?
I do not know, because it may use different warehouses, and for operational reasons, I don't want to start talking about exactly where things are going. But obviously, the distance cannot be too long, given the Gaza Strip is not very wide. We may get some updates for you on the humanitarian movements of, dare I say, trucks, and I will share those with you when we get them.